The year is 1948. The air in the Bronx Veterans Hospital hangs thick with the scent of antiseptic, starched linen, and the quiet despair of men who had won a war but lost themselves. Outside, America celebrated victory, but inside these walls, the echoes of battle lingered not in explosions, but in the frustrating silence of a spoon failing to meet a mouth. Imagine a young man, no older than 22, who had stormed the beaches of Normandy, now staring at a bowl of lukewarm soup as if it were an insurmountable mountain. His right arm is gone, a ghost limb that still remembers the weight of a rifle. His left is heavily bandaged, its dexterity stolen by shrapnel. He is a hero, decorated and honored in public, but here, in the harsh fluorescent light of the ward, he is stripped of a fundamental dignity, the ability to feed himself. Each attempt is a small, agonizing drama. A nurse, overworked and stretched thin across a ward of similar tragedies, tries to help, but her assistance, however well-intentioned, feels like another surrender. It is a confirmation of his dependency, a daily reminder of all that was taken from him. Into this tableau of quiet desperation walks Bessie Blount. She is not a doctor, not a general, but a physiotherapist, and more importantly, an observer with a rare and potent form of empathy. As a black woman in the deeply segregated and male-dominated medical field of the 1940s, she was already accustomed to seeing the world from a different angle, to identifying problems that the establishment overlooked. She had trained at Panzar College of Physical Education in New Jersey and the Union Junior College, and her work with the influential Dr. Herman Cabot had steeped her in the principles of proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, a fancy term for re-educating the pathways between mind and muscle. But her true genius lay not in textbooks, but in her ability to see the human being behind the injury. She watched these veterans, these men celebrated for their strength, now infantilized by their wounds. She saw the shame that flickered in their eyes with every spilled drop of broth, the tightening of a jaw that signaled not just physical struggle, but a profound psychological wound. The system saw a logistical problem to be managed with busy nurses and scheduled mealtimes. Bessie Blount saw a violation of the human spirit. She believed that independence was a form of medicine in itself. The act of regaining control, even over something as simple as a meal, could be the first crucial step in rebuilding a life. So, she began to think not like a therapist who adapts the patient to the world, but like an inventor who adapts the world to the patient. In her small apartment after long days at the hospital, she tinkered. She sketched, she built prototypes from plastic, spare parts, and even, as she would later recount, a heated-up ice pick to mold the materials. Her vision was for a device that was elegant in its simplicity, something that didn't require complex machinery or electricity, but worked with the patient's own limited movements. His dignity, along with his limbs, seems lost. The result of her tireless work was the portable receptacle support, a revolutionary self-feeding apparatus. It consisted of a lightweight neck brace from which an arm extended holding a small receptacle for food. A tube connected this receptacle to a mouthpiece. By biting down on the mouthpiece, the patient could trigger a mechanism that delivered a single, manageable portion of food. It was ingenious. It put the control squarely back in the hands of the user. The patient decided when to eat, what to eat from the plate, and at what pace. When she brought the first polished prototype back to the ward, the initial reaction was skepticism. It looked unusual, another piece of medical paraphernalia in a life already cluttered with it. But then, she fitted it to that first young veteran, the one who had stared at his soup with such defeat. She showed him how to use his neck and mouth to guide the device. He clumsily bit down. A small spoonful of soup was dispensed. He tried again, a little smoother this time. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. A third time. A small, almost imperceptible smile. For the first time in months, he was not being fed. He was eating. The quiet revolution had begun. Word spread through the ward like wildfire. Others wanted to try it. Soon, the sounds of clanking spoons and quiet frustration began to be replaced by the soft clicks of Blount's invention and the restored hum of conversation over meals. She had given these men more than just food. She had given them back a piece of themselves. The success was undeniable, a tangible victory witnessed by patients and staff alike. But as the whispers of its life-changing impact began to travel beyond the hospital doors, a formidable new question began to form, hanging in the air with the same weight as the soldier's unspoken grief. Would this profound, life-changing invention, born from the mind of a black woman, ever be truly embraced by the very nation it was designed to serve? Following that quiet triumph in the wards, a triumph measured in restored smiles and the renewed dignity of wounded men, Bessie Blount knew her invention could not remain a small-scale, localized solution. Its potential was immense, capable of helping thousands of veterans across the country. The logical, necessary next step was to engage with the very institution responsible for their care, the United States government. To do this, she needed to formalize her creation, to translate her compassionate ingenuity into the cold, hard language of bureaucracy and law. On April 24, 1951, she took that monumental step. She filed an application with the U.S. Patent Office for her portable receptacle support. This act was, in itself, a quiet rebellion. In the early 1950s, the world of patents and inventions was overwhelmingly the domain of white men. For a black woman to navigate this system, to assert ownership over her intellectual property, required a fortitude that went far beyond mere technical skill. The application itself is a testament to her meticulous mind, filled with detailed diagrams and precise mechanical descriptions. U.S. Patent number 2,656,057 was eventually granted on October 20, 1953. With this official documentation in hand, she had unimpeachable proof of her creation's originality and utility. Armed with her patent and the powerful anecdotal evidence from the Bronx Hospital, Blount made her formal offer to the U.S. Army and the Veterans Administration. She didn't seek profit or fame. In a gesture of profound patriotism and humanitarianism, she offered to donate the rights to her invention, asking for nothing in return. She wanted the device to be mass-produced and distributed to every military hospital where it was needed. Her proposal was a lifeline, a ready-made solution to a widespread and deeply felt problem. The response she received was not a negotiation, not a request for a demonstration, not even a polite deferral. It was a brick wall. The official reply from the VA, as Blount would later recount in interviews, was a stunningly curt and dismissive statement. There was simply no need for such a device. They claimed, with a breathtaking lack of awareness, that the government was already doing enough for its returning soldiers. Let's pause and dissect the chilling absurdity of that statement. No need. This response was delivered to a woman who had spent countless hours witnessing the acute, daily need with her own eyes. It was a declaration made by a distant, faceless bureaucracy, contradicting the lived reality of thousands of men who had sacrificed their bodies for their country. This wasn't just a rejection of an invention, it was a systemic snub, a glaring symptom of a society sick with prejudice. We must place this moment in its proper context. This was the era of Jim Crow, a time when racial segregation was the law of the land in many states and a de facto reality in nearly all aspects of American life, including its institutions of science and medicine. It was also an era of rigid gender roles, where women, especially black women, were systematically excluded from positions of authority and intellectual recognition. The Army officials and VA bureaucrats who reviewed her proposal likely saw not a brilliant inventor with a proven solution, but simply a black woman. Her expertise was invisible to them. Her ingenuity was irrelevant.
Their prejudice formed an impenetrable barrier, blinding them to the profound value of her work. The dismissal was an act of institutional arrogance, a declaration that they, the powerful gatekeepers, would rather let their soldiers struggle than accept a solution from someone they deemed an outsider. How could such a vital aid for wounded soldiers be so callously overlooked by their own country? The answer lies not in the device's design or function, but in the identity of its creator. The system was designed to ignore voices like hers, no matter how brilliant or compassionate. The rejection letter was more than just ink on paper. It was a quantification of bias, a cold, hard document proving that for the American establishment, the identity of an inventor mattered more than the lives their invention could improve.
From that baffling rejection by her homeland, a rejection steeped in the bitter brew of racial and gender prejudice, emerged an unexpected and powerful validation from across the Atlantic. Bessie Blount Griffin was not a person to be defeated by ignorance. Her resolve, forged in a lifetime of navigating a discriminatory society, was stronger than the bureaucratic indifference of the Veterans Administration. If her own country was too blind to see the value in her work, she would find a country that could. Refusing to let her life-altering invention languish in a filing cabinet, she made a bold and inspired move. She reached out to the French government. France, like the United States, was grappling with the long-term consequences of World War II, caring for a generation of men who bore the permanent scars of conflict. But unlike their American counterparts, the French officials responded not with dismissal, but with curiosity and respect. They saw the invention for what it was, a profound humanitarian tool. Her ingenuity found a home where empathy prevailed over prejudice. In 1952, the French government formally accepted her offer, eagerly incorporating the self-feeding apparatus into their military hospitals. While American veterans continued the daily struggle to maintain their dignity at mealtimes, their French allies were being empowered by the genius of a Black American woman their own government had scorned. America's loss became France's gain, a stark and painful illustration of how bigotry doesn't just harm individuals, it weakens a nation by discarding the very innovations that could heal it. Bessie Blount Griffin's story, however, is far too expansive to be defined by a single invention or a single rejection. Her restless, brilliant mind was already moving toward its next chapter, one that would see her become a pioneer in an entirely different scientific field. She possessed an innate understanding of the intricate connection between the brain and the body, a skill honed during her years as a physiotherapist. She understood neuromuscular patterns, the subtle ways physical conditions and psychological states manifest in motor control. This deep knowledge led her to an unlikely but logical new passion, the science of handwriting analysis, or forensic graphology. She recognized that writing was not merely a cognitive act, but a physical one, a unique neuromuscular signature. She pursued this new calling with the same intensity and dedication she had brought to her inventions. She moved to England to train with the experts at Scotland Yard, immersing herself in the rigorous discipline of document examination. Upon returning to the United States, she became one of the foremost forensic scientists in the country and a trailblazing Black woman in a field almost entirely populated by white men. She established a professional consulting business, putting her unique skills to work for police departments in Virginia and New Jersey. Her expertise became legendary. She could analyze a signature and detect the telltale signs of forgery. She could examine a document and determine its authenticity, her keen eye catching nuances of pen pressure, ink, and paper that others missed. In a stunning turn of irony, the very government that had once dismissed her inventive genius now sought out her scientific expertise. She began consulting for and training law enforcement personnel, and her reputation grew to the point where she was even called upon to assist federal agencies. The woman whose help the U.S. Army had declared was not needed was now a trusted expert helping to solve crimes and uphold justice. Her journey exposes a painful and enduring truth: genius knows no race, no gender, and no social station. But opportunity is often cruelly constrained by all three. Bessie Blount Griffin's legacy is a powerful testament to a mind so brilliant it could not be contained by the narrow prejudices of her time. She found a way to serve, to heal, and to discover, even when the doors were slammed shut. Her life's work compels us to ask, how many other cures, solutions, and breakthroughs have been lost to history, not because they weren't brilliant, but because their creators didn't fit a predetermined mold? Her story is not just a reclamation of her own incredible history, it is a call to action to find the others.